Hi, class. I'm going to draw some hair for you now. I'm going to start with a young woman, and the hair on her head and how it flows off her head. So what I've done is I've kind of laid out some parts so you can see them. You can see the general shape of the face. Okay. Her chin, points that are important to think about. All right. Here, furthest point, I see her head. Here, furthest point on that side, I see her head. Bottom. And then for top, where I see her on her forehead, where these are all points where I see skin, okay? So up here, where there's gonna be a part and there's gonna be some curl to her hair, and here, where there's a second point on her forehead. So if you look at it, it's about a ½ inch between it. I'm gonna round that off a little bit. It's drawn a little bit harshly, so you can see it a little better. Here you've seen I put a dotted line in here for the middle of her head, get the proportions right. Here's the base of her nose, proportion for that, and the extension of her lips. We all want to think about, that's where the lips are going to end. Here's where her chin is, middle of her lips, middle of her nose, middle of her glabella, and the start up to her forehead. Her hair comes down and around. So think about width. You know, this might be 1 inch and, 3/4. This section here, it has different widths. It's widest here, a little more shallow here. Her hair curls here. I'm working with an HB pencil, so I'm going to draw for a little bit now. Let's put her neckline in too, so you get an idea where that is. Now, the idea of a big curl would be identify a shape like this. See the light source is coming down from here. So light source is coming down. So this is going to be light, dark. Light, dark. Dark, a little bit of light here. As it wraps the curl, light, dark, where there's a wrap of hair. And then this is going to be in shadow, dark. On the other side, now her hair was brown. Light, dark. See where it starts to pick up light here. There'll be a little bit of dark around the edge. You have to talk about the width a little bit. And you'll have the width in here too. And by that I mean there's two planes going on here. There's a plane that's going this way and there's a plane that's going back. Okay, I was using an HB pencil. I'm going to put her shoulders into. I want to give you an idea where I think her shoulders might be, at least on that side. I don't know if you can see that or not. I don't think it's important, but to give you an idea, yeah, I think you can. And unfortunately, my pencil's covering the other side, but I always draw across, so I have an idea at least where her shoulder would be on the other side. And her neck sits down inside that. So let's draw some hair. I'm going to take a darker pencil to start. I've got a 6B. Think about the direction that curl is going. It's going that way. Think about the direction this curl is going. That way. Think about how it might shift a little bit as it goes down a little and goes that way. Think about what's going on in here. It's gonna be a little bit of a reflection on this side, right here. Not as dark. I'm using my pencil, so it's being worn down since the 6B. It's getting a longer edge. You know, it's not just a sharp little point. It's wider. It makes a wider mark, which I like. It's helpful. I always follow the form. I consider the shape of that curl of hair. If it starts like that and it ends like that, that's the way I'm gonna make my marks. I don't make marks like that. Doesn't make any sense. I can use it, but I've got to cover it with a line that actually makes visual sense when I'm working over the top of it. Guessing I'd hear ear height would be about there. Since that's so dark, direction doesn't too much matter there. But I know I'm going to do something else to that in a minute anyway. So that's actually a nice start. Let me see if I got a little bit more dark down here I want to put in. But just consider it, you know, black, middle gray, and then the white of the paper with a little bit of light to describe the outside shape and the outer form. So I've only basically used 3 values to make it that far, but you already start to see her head starting to take shape. Now, I like to use an eraser to move the softer graphites, especially when I'm drawing hair. Kind of burnishes it up a little bit and gives it the texture of hair. You can actually pull it a little bit and actually see it start to get a softness that could come in handy. Now I'm using one of the cut pieces of the eraser. I'm going to take the edge of that form out. See, I have a line there that describes it. It doesn't do anything for me. It's not helpful, so I'll just remove it. But it was just there to kind of show me where to end. This is a harder pencil. I might literally start to draw right over the top of all of that I've blended. You know, considering the outside edges of my form and trying to draw my lines exactly as those forms are. Since her hair is brown, it's not going to remain the white of the paper, but it's not going to be dense. Maybe I think about whether it's curled over or it comes from the roots. The roots would attach like that, or over here. Just a little bit of value, just to give me an idea what's going on here, so I can see her face a little bit more clearly. This is just to differentiate. You'd say, why don't you make these more, follow the form? I'm not ready for that. That's exactly what I would tell you. It's not at that point. That's just to help me separate light and dark a little bit right now. That's an easy fix later. So you have two shapes coming together here, two planes. One going that way, one curling over it. I'm going to wrap that behind it. I'm going to convince you it's behind it by going a little bit darker. I pick at that edge. Separate it a little bit. Back to the 6B pencil. I'm just not pushing hard on it right now. I'm pushing on it, lightly. So it's giving me a gray, but it's a gray I can move. That's easy to clean up. It's also going to have light here because it's resting on her shoulder a little bit. So there'll be a little bit of a bump in the hair as it comes forward. Same on this side, a little bit of a bump. It's important to think about value and where the darkest values are. And for her, the part of her lips is probably close to the darkest value that you'd find in her hair. might be a little bit lighter, but you want to consider that. Whereas the shadow under her nose is not going to be. The hair is going to be lighter. Highlights, her forehead, there might be a highlight right about here. There might be highlight on her glabella, on the edge of her brow. There might be highlight at the peak of her nose, at the bulb, or maybe on a nostril, maybe a little bit here. Might be a strip down the side of her nose like that might be catching light. So this is back to the HB pencil. I would assume that a lot of this is in shadow. So I'm going to use the HB around the side of her head. Not to the front though, just the side. 2 planes, across and back. And that's basically how I would start to punch in straight, long hair with waves in it. So, you know, just to review, outside dimensions, inside dimensions, measure widths. What's wider? Is it wider here or here? Where's the hair coming from is important to remember. How it's flowing back. If you see a curl, does it head in that direction? Does it head in that direction? Where does it separate? Places where it appears from inside, where there's a curl from inside, it's going to be darker here. And then as it catches light, it's going to get lighter. When it curls back around, it might be very dark where the curl starts. And then it's going to get lighter as it comes around the shoulder. So I'm going to work on this a little bit more. I'll show you a second version and I'll talk you through it once I get it to that point. But that's how I would start drawing hair. You know, that's my beginning on it.